I was like, I'm never going to find a corporate job that I can like tolerate. And I could like kind of tolerate this one. But then I was like, you know what? Now is the chance to like really try to do the health and fitness thing full time and make it bigger.
Welcome to Corporate Warrior, the podcast that brings you the best advice on how to improve your health, optimize performance, and maximize productivity. With your host, Lawrence Neal.
This podcast is brought to you by HitUni.com. HitUni.com are a provider of amazing online courses for high-intensity training qualifications. HitUni comes highly recommended by the best in the field, including Body by Science co-author Dr. Doug McGuff, Discover Strength CEO Luke Carlson, and trainer and founder of Bay.com, Drew Bay. It was founded by my friend, author, and longtime personal trainer, Simon Shawcross, who's also been a guest on the podcast. Simon has 15 years experience training clients and has supervised over 15,000 high-intensity training workouts. Using knowledge from experts like Skylar Tanner, Dr. James Steele, Dr. Ellington Darden, HitUni is a goldmine for learning everything to do with high-intensity training. The courses are delivered online through the website, where you can learn via a variety of multimedia materials at your own pace. There's online support and a discussion forum where you can share ideas and ask for help. To learn more about high-intensity training and improve my own results, I started their personal trainer course. The content is amazing, the courses are really easy to follow, and each section is organized into bite-sized chunks that give you a real sense of achievement after you complete each one. I should also mention there is a DIY course, so this is the course for you if you're not necessarily a personal trainer, but you want to learn more about high-intensity training and how to implement it for maximum benefit in your own exercise regime. To get your exclusive Corporate Warrior 10% discount on any course you purchase, simply head on over to hituni.com, that's HITUNI.com, and enter the coupon code CW10, that's CW and the number 10. So again, head on over to hituni.com, pick your course, and enter the coupon code CW10 for 10% discount. Thank you for your support. This episode is brought to you by my former podcast guest, friend, and health and sleep coach, Alex Fergus. Alex is a passionate health and sleep coach and has worked with hundreds of clients from all walks of life to help them transform their body composition, health, and energy level. Alex is an accomplished athlete representing New Zealand in rowing, winning national bodybuilding titles, and breaking powerlifting records. He's absolutely ripped and he's strong as an ox, and has won the Paleo FX Real Fit competition 2 years running against some of the most fierce competition around. The first time round, he won the competition training only 15 minutes per week. Alex attributes much of his success to his pursuit of incremental improvement in every aspect of his health and performance. He's one of the most obsessive biohackers I know, constantly optimizing every aspect of his mind and body for better results. As a former chronically sleep-deprived young adult, Alex pays close attention to his sleep and has invested heavily to optimize his own sleep quality for maximum benefit. He's devoted much of his time to researching how to improve sleep and has been featured on numerous podcasts and wrote extensively on the subject, and he knows his stuff. With that in mind, Alex is giving away a free 4-part sleep improvement series with tips that will revolutionize your sleep quality and help you fall asleep faster to give you more energy, improve body composition, and better all-around well-being. To get access to his free 4-part sleep improvement series, go to 15minutecorporatewarrior.com/Alex. That's 15minutecorporatewarrior.com/Alex and sign up now. Hi guys, I am Lawrence Neal and welcome to another episode of Corporate Warrior. I'm coming at you from Galway in Ireland. I'm wearing a Star Wars onesie and I'm sitting in my kitchen. This podcast is my mission to understand how to optimize productivity in health, career, business and lifestyle by interviewing the most effective people I can find today. My guests include world record holders, medical physicians, health and fitness, high-profile giants, underground, rarely interviewed, high-intensity training experts, biohackers, scientists, New York Times bestselling authors, etc., etc. My next guest is Anthony DiClemente. Anthony is a certified nutrition specialist and NCSF personal trainer. He's created a successful brand and business directed at helping people hack their biology to optimize their health and energy. He works with Fortune 500 businesses, including Teal Capital and Groupon, and is author of the Biohacker's Guide, which has sold over 15,000 copies worldwide. This was a really fun conversation. We do discuss some biohacking stuff, specifically Anthony's view on the dangers of electromagnetic fields, which he sees as a new smoking. I am highly skeptical, as I'm sure many of you are, but it was definitely a good conversation and food for thought. Moreover, we talk about various biohacks before moving on to productivity, which was very enriching for me since Anthony's online business empire is fairly impressive. And we cover Anthony's structure in the first 90 minutes of his day. What are the best resources Anthony has come across for improving marketing skills? Why you should stop looking at business stats. This was a big one for me because I'm always addicted to stats, especially at the moment where I'm constantly tracking lots of KPIs when actually it's typically a complete waste of my time. We talk about the key contributors to the success of his own podcast, which gets, I think, around 100,000 downloads per episode, which is quite significant. We talk about how he prioritizes tasks and designs his day, his top tools and technology for increased productivity, and much, much more. I implore you to postpone any judgments you might have, perhaps triggered by the use of the word biohacker, which is a little cliche these days, because Anthony does walk the walk. He's in fantastic physical condition and is surprisingly monk-like in his approach to lifestyle and getting things done, which was very inspiring indeed and not expected. For all of the show notes and links for this episode and all episodes, please go to 15minutecorporatewarrior.com/podcast. That's 15minutecorporatewarrior.com/podcast. And at the end, don't forget to hang around for your free gift. So without further ado, please enjoy this podcast with Anthony D. Clementi. Anthony, thank you for joining me today on Corporate Warrior. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I wanted to just kick off this interview with just asking you to give a quick summary of your background. As I said before we got started, I am going to point the listeners to that interview you did with Renegade Radio, because I think you give a more comprehensive view of your background in that interview. But I guess, could you just give a quick summary of a background just for context?
Yeah, been involved in the health and fitness space for a long time, was focused mostly on diet and exercise, got really sick, realized no matter how strict I got with diet and exercise, it wasn't getting the job done, and started shifting focus to toxins, energy production, mitochondrial health, and everything opened up. Was able to then start helping people that hadn't gotten results from paleo and CrossFit and everything, and then wrote a book called The Biohacker's Guide, and have since started helping people with a lot of these issues and troubleshooting some of the energy vampires that can keep us from becoming the best version of ourselves.
Do you often get compared to Dave Asprey, the bulletproof founder?
People bring him up because he's done a lot for bringing awareness to biohacking, and he's an innovative guy. I have a lot of respect for him. Our personalities and overall approaches are kind of different. My approach was cutting my teeth with working with thousands of coaching clients, and going through some of this myself. People usually mention it, but they're not like, "Oh, you're like Dave Asprey,"
Because they probably don't want to piss you off.
Yeah, he's great. He's I don't know him personally, but I appreciate what he's done. And everyone has their own opinions. I'm sure a lot of people think I'm a little bit more extreme than they'd like to go with some of this stuff. And
just on that, when you're at a party, someone asks you what you do, how do you introduce yourself?
I usually just start with the author, even though I verbally dictated the book, because I'm not a big writer. It's easier for people to wrap their heads around. So I'm like, I wrote a book that helps people to increase their energy. It's called The Biohacker's Guide to Upgraded Energy, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and businessmen to help them become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, cool. That sounds pretty trained in a good way.
Yeah. Well, I've done so many I don't know if you've ever had it, but I've done so many botched elevator speeches where you realize that you just completely missed the boat and lost them when the first sentence. Yeah. So I'm I need to go something a little better.
Yeah, I quite like the approach where you kind of give real high level and then you kind of play it by ear. So if they show more interest, then you can go a little deeper and then a little deeper rather than just hit them with the full, description of what you do, which can sometimes be just confusing and too much for some people, I suppose. And
Totally.
especially if they're very removed from the industry. But I've only just moved from, I had a corporate job in London, and doing podcasting part time. And I've now moved on to focusing on Corporate Warrior full time, and in doing so, moved to Ireland to live. So I haven't really done much in the way of networking, and even really met many people since I've been here. But I know I'm going to have to kind of hone that, that introduction down. So I'm a little worried about that, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Nice. Did you say you're doing podcasting full time now?
Yeah, I guess so. Podcasting, blogging, full time. I mean, it's early. The business is in its infancy, so the revenues are not there yet. But I saved a fair amount of money, at least for me, I had an IT sales career. So I was in IT sales for like 8 years, and saved some money doing that. So that's going to help me in the short term, but I can't rely on that.
That's cool, man.
I need to figure this thing out. So, but no, it's exciting. I feel like for a long time, and just like you were in the corporate world. You said you were on the 94th floor of, I can't remember the name of the skyscraper now, but big building in America.
Yeah, the Sears Tower, yeah.
Right, and you didn't. What was it you didn't actually elaborate on your profession? What was it you actually did?
So I was in commercial mortgage-backed securities. So we would finance big commercial real estate properties and then sell those loans on Wall Street to investors.
Right. So the crash kind of helped you out though in a way, didn't it? Because it kind of served as a catalyst. Is that fair to say for you?
Yeah, it was the catalyst. Like that movie, The Big Short. Have you seen that?
I've not. I mean to, but I've not yet.
It's good. It's worth checking out. But that kind of shows what happened in 2008 on the residential side, but it also happened on the commercial side. And I remember being in our conference room and having my eyes well up with tears when I found out we were shutting down our office, because I was like, I'm never going to find a corporate job that I can tolerate. And I could kind of tolerate this one. But then I was like, you know what, now is the chance to really try to do the health and fitness thing full time and make it bigger and stop splitting myself in so many different directions.
Just out of interest, how did you make that transition? Because that's kind of what I'm going through at the moment, and it's very scary. To a degree, I'm kind of done the whole jumping out of the airplane without the parachute thing, where I've not done the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week, design a muse that supplants your income and then transition over smoothly. I don't know anyone who's done that quite that smoothly. So how did you manage that successfully?
Yeah. So I had some skill in marketing and networking. I was decent at that. And I pretty much bought every course in online marketing that I could find, and tore through them, just devoured them. And I started helping some of the places in Chicago, get their business out there. So I worked with some of the bigger hospitality groups in Chicago, but applying things like email marketing and social media when it was still on the forefront and a little bit more of a novel channel to their businesses. And I did that because it allowed me to work 5 to 15 hours a week and maximize the amount of income that I was making. So I was looking at what could I do to invest the least amount of time, still add a lot of value to other businesses, so that I could spend the rest of my time building the health and fitness stuff. Because I was still working with with personal training and yoga instruction and nutrition counseling. You don't make a ton of money, but you do work a ton. So it was kind of that situation where I knew that I didn't have enough coming in from that to survive. So I was like, what could I do in the least amount of other time to maximize and supplement my income? And that was helpful.
Okay. And then when you kind of got the health and fitness brand in the right place, did you then just sort of transition over? And financially, is that how that worked? Was it not quite that smooth?
it wasn't that smooth. Like I wrote my first ebook. I'd come across, you mentioned Tim Ferriss. I'd come across an article that he wrote on a guy named Mike Geary, who was he had a product called The Truth About Abs.
Ah,
And it
yes.
was like, yeah. And Tim's article was talking about how Geary was doing like $1 million a month selling ebooks. And I just had this like aha moment. I'm like, what am I doing working from like 5 a.m. until 9 p.m. training client after client and like missing meals and like, just stressed to the gills. And I'm like, and at the end of the day, I'm maybe going to help 12 people, 15 people. And I'm like, when Mike is helping millions of people every month with his newsletter and his ebooks. So I started writing an ebook, and I thought like I would just put that online and it would blow up naturally. So I wrote this like 500-page ebook called The Health Blueprint and put up a website, and it was like crickets. Like no one knew about it. No sales coming in. Like that moment when I finished the book, I thought my whole life was going to change. And that was the big turning point. And then you realize like, oh, you got to like get your stuff out there. And yeah, so that like started it, but I had to figure a lot of shit out before it actually started monetizing, and I was able to take myself out of the one-on-one side of things.
Cool. Well, let's pause on that because I do want to pick up on some of the productivity and business stuff later on. So you've got this
Sure.
you've got this background in biohacking. You've kind of, it looks like you've invested a lot of your time in really educating yourself on some of this stuff, which is very interesting. A lot of it is obviously, a lot of people are very skeptical about a lot of the different protocols, especially my audience who are very, very skeptical in a good way. And I just wanted to start off with, when it comes to biohacking in general, what are the key areas that you think people should be trying to address that they don't, for the most part?
Yeah. So I think that one of, and I'll preface this with, we're at a time right now that's very similar to the 50s and 60s, when people who said that cigarettes were dangerous and unhealthy were seen as radical extremists. And history is now repeating itself. And the modern cigarette is unnatural, non-native electromagnetic fields coming from cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth devices, and especially people in densely populated areas like big cities, where if you're in a high rise where there's 300 of these Wi-Fi units, we're seeing the levels that are accepted in the United States as safe are 10x that of like China and Russia and Italy, and other countries are calling for, like India just called for to make their accepted legal limit 1/10 of what it was, because they're starting to see more and more cases of neurodegenerative diseases, heart issues, anxiety, difficulty concentrating. And I realize that in sharing that, some people are going to go, come on, aluminum, tinfoil hat guy. But I can promise you in the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to parallel a lot of what happened with cigarettes. And we're going to realize that a lot of this stuff that we were chasing in trying to change our diet and trying to work out more were symptoms that were occurring because we're interfering with our cells' ability to function properly.
Cool. No, I do think there's some truth there in terms of the optimizing cell function. But is there, like, the immediate thing, I think, when you say about how, there's a lot of reports of neurodegenerative disease and other diseases, a lot of people are going to say, well, causation, correlation, how do we know, like, is there, and I don't know, I've not really reviewed the scientific literature, but is there literature out there that is, well designed, that shows the damage that these electromagnetic fields are causing?
Yeah. So a couple data points. And again, some of this is like being on the forefront. And these are things that I'm also testing myself and with clients. So at any given time, I'm working with anywhere from 50 to 100 clients.
Okay.
And these are things that, like, it starts in the scientific literature and with hypotheses, and then it's tested not just with myself, but with other people. And to put things in perspective, The safety limits in Russia and China and Italy is around 100 milliwatts per meter squared. Now, we don't need to get into like too much nerdery, but you just think like 100 is what they have determined to be safe.
We
right?
love a bit of nerdery. That's fine.
Yeah, and so if I were to take like my electrosmog meter that's able to pick up on electrosmog and measure it in milliwatts per meter squared, and I pick up my cell phone right now and I open up Instagram and just play a video, it would get anywhere from 40 milliwatts per meter squared to over 300. And I have pictures from just a couple of days ago documenting like my cell phone putting out over 300 milliwatts per meter squared. So, basically like 3x the safety limits that these other countries have determined. And there's a lot of evidence and studies showing as little as 0.5 milliwatts per meter squared to cause heart arrhythmias and headaches and dizziness. And I can tell you firsthand that like this isn't hearsay. I'm not one of those people that just has a blog and like has theories or like something has worked for me and then I'm like telling everybody to do it, because we are all different, right? I've taken guys that were on, one of my clients, Frank, was on his deathbed, excruciating pain throughout his body. He'd had to stop his running his business and move back in with his parents. I'd helped his sister with some stuff, and she's like, "Can you help my brother? He's basically going to pass if we don't intervene in somehow." He couldn't get in and out of bed. He was living in a lazy boy. And I helped him to identify a lot of these sources of unnatural EMFs that were affecting him. We cut him down. He told me when we started working together that if he could get his pain down from a 10 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 within 60 days, it would be a success. Because like every day was that miserable for him. And within 3 days, he was at a 5 out of 10.
Oh, cool.
And all we really addressed was some of those things.
That's impressive. Okay, so going back to EMF stuff. Well, not going back, continuing on that thread. One of the things, so for instance, I'm thinking about my situation here. I've just moved into a apartment in Ireland. I've got a Virgin Media router. I don't know if you're familiar with Virgin Media, the local ISP. You probably know that. What am I talking about?
Is that Branson?
That's Branson. Correct. Yeah. So
right.
Of course you're going to know. Virgin have tons of different business sort of arms to their business. It's crazy. If for instance, what I tend to do, because I'm kind of aware of this, although I've not really looked at the literature and the data, I'm still kind of paranoid. So I will hardwire my laptop into the router and go not wireless. So turn off the wireless. But the thing is, the router is still doing its thing. You can still connect to that wirelessly. So it's still pinging around my apartment, right? It's still sending its electromagnetic field around the place. So how do I mitigate that or against that? And what sort of interventions can I put in place?
Yeah, great question. And one of the caveats that I want to put out there is that like, by no means in sharing this am I telling people that they need to stop using their cell phone or like should fear Wi-Fi or they need to grow a beard like you and I have and move into the mountains. It starts with awareness and like just reducing exposure, right? Because there's so many times where like we're unnecessarily being affected by these fields. So I do I have a device. There's devices you can get for $10 or $15 that you can plug into and use instead of your router. Right now, you and I are talking. I went and I plugged the router in and turned the power on for our conversation. But when we're done, if I'm not working on my computer where I need internet, the router's unplugged and I'm actually taking the plug out of the wall too. Phone when it's not in use. So like, if I need to make phone calls or respond to text messages, I try to batch that work and do it in a condensed period of time. And when it's not in use, it's in airplane mode. And little things, headphones, rather than holding the thing up to your head.
I do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all of those little things compounded daily can have a big impact.
Cool. Now, I actually kind of like this because, I've got friends who think, you'll get so stressed out trying to figure all this out that you'll end up ironically just causing the same issues. And I actually kind of, what I'm hearing when you say all that is you're actually creating better quality of life because you're not, it takes your attention away from your phone and you're batching some of these, using technology, which is actually, I think, a healthy activity anyway. Forget the EMF, effect. It's just healthy to do that. And it kind of almost forces you to not use the internet for a moment and do something else. I don't know. It'd be hard for me though to switch my router off because my girlfriend would get very pissed, I think. So yeah, I'm going to have to think on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, good stuff. So what do you think? So, okay, EMF, and mitigating that and preventing that is obviously, perhaps a good thing to focus on. What else do you think? Could you give perhaps 3 of your sort of most important focus areas when you're coaching people for, I guess, improving overall health and body composition? What else do you get them to address? Perhaps the more non-obvious, because we know that exercise and diet are good interventions, but what else is there as well?
Yeah, a big one would be, and this is this helps with energy. It helps with body composition. Is people have come to fear the sun, and it is one of the greatest ways to upgrade your energy and get the the mitochondria, the little energy powerhouses of your cells, working better. And for people that want to nerd out, basically like shorten the electron transport chain. Which, like, when we're inflamed, when we're eating a bunch of stuff that causes inflammation in the body, or we're dealing with health issues, which many people are, the electron transport chain gets stretched out. It becomes less efficient, and we get tired. And a lot of us mistakenly assume that we're tired because we have excess body fat, but it's actually the other way around. We have excess body fat because we're tired, because our cells are not producing energy efficiently, and things like sunlight move us in the right direction. So getting as much sun as possible without burning, that is the caveat. So everyone has different tolerances and abilities based on our ethnicities and background and everything. But getting more sun daily and just more time outside in nature to take in that sun will improve the quality of life of just about every human being.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember you talking when you were on Renegade Radio. You mentioned, I can't remember the exact terms you used, but you said about how, I think it was your client that you were talking about just now. He would go outside and look into the sun and allow the rays of the sun to penetrate his eyes and his mouth. And I was thinking about that. I came out of that because Ireland has hardly any hot, sunny, great weather. And so when we have it, it's exciting and you want to get out in it. So I went out today and I was thinking about that, and I was really took my sunglasses off and I was letting the sun really penetrate my face. That sounds so weird.
Good stuff, man.
Do you understand? Can you reiterate the benefits that are happening there? Do you know the pathways or the mechanisms? And I know you're not, perhaps a doctor in that sort of field, but I'd be interested to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So this is, again, leveraging things that we're seeing in the scientific community and tools that are being used to help people that are dealing with the extremes inform the mean. So people that are dealing with cognitive decline, neurodegenerative disorders, you look at some of the things that help them get back to a healthy state. They can also be used to help people that are, already healthy or normal to upgrade their performance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So some of the tools that are being used with neurodegenerative conditions and cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, are devices that use red and infrared light on the skull to actually penetrate the skull and stimulate mitochondrial activity in the brain, stimulate the cells in the brain and the little energy powerhouses in the brain. There are devices that are being used now that people can put in their ears to help regulate their circadian rhythm, in the nose, etc., even in the mouth. And they're using some of these to both influence our blood and the cells there, but also in the brain. And what we're realizing is that our brain and our body takes in light through the eyes, through the skull, through the ears, through the mouth. And some of the ways that this light influences us is through, there's something called cytochrome C, or if you want to get really nerdy and look it up, it's cytochrome C oxidase. And what that does is it helps to make the cells more efficiently produce energy, help the mitochondria make more ATP. and we activate cytochrome C with sunlight, and even with other forms of red light and infrared light. So there was a study that was done in December of this past year, and they took rats with Alzheimer's, and they used a red light that flashed at a gamma frequency. So like our brain, different cells in our brain oscillate at different frequencies. And what they found is that people with Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative diseases had trouble getting their brain into gamma, which is like, there's like beta when you're like alpha is like if you're meditating, beta is if you're concentrating, and then gamma is like the next level up.
Got it.
And what they found is like in gamma, that's when a lot of these plaques, tau proteins, beta amyloid plaque, gets cleared from our brain. And when that's not working properly over years or decades, we can develop issues with cognition and neurodegenerative diseases. And they use this flashing red light to entrain the brains of the rats and see if it would actually like get them to start vibrating at this gamma frequency. And over a 6-week period, the rats that used the red light had a 50% reduction in beta amyloid plaque and tau proteins, which is synonymous with a reversal in their Alzheimer's symptoms.
Cool. So no, it's good stuff. So moving on to some of the productivity stuff. So very keen to get your view on some of this. So tell us what, you mentioned your book. What else are you working on at the moment? What else do you want to feel free to plug, what are your kind of key projects right now that you're trying to get out there?
The coolest thing that we're working on is the Biohacking Secrets lifestyle community, which is like a lot of the things that I'm finding really effective myself and with clients. We're creating video trainings and PDFs. I work with a lot of the people we've got 600 or so folks that are plugged into a Facebook community, and they'll ask questions. They'll be like, "Hey, Anthony, how do I biohack my hangover?" Right? And I'll put something together for him, and the guy will write in, and he's like, this just happened 2 days ago. That's why it's like fresh in my mind. And he's like, "It worked." He's like, "This is great." So then we'll take things like that. We'll add it to the community.
Or just don't get drunk in the first place.
No, so I said, yeah. So that would be good advice, but he'd be like, "Yeah, thanks for the help." No, so I said one, at the end of the night, take one capsule of life extension anti-alcohol antioxidants, which are like, it's a combination of antioxidants that boost glutathione in the body and help you kind of like better metabolize the alcohol. I said have two glasses of water before you go to bed, and then I had one or two other things in there that I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean,
is it like activated charcoal? That's something I hear people do, or is that prior to drinking? I can't remember.
Yeah, I have tested both the activated charcoal and the life extension anti-alcohol antioxidants, and found the antioxidants to work better. The activated charcoal works by kind of the idea in the people that have put it out there is that it binds to the alcohol and decreases absorption, and helps to assist the body in like clearing that stuff out. The antioxidants actually improve like our detoxification pathways and make us more resilient to toxins. So it's different, and I found the capsules to work better.
Okay, cool. I also saw one of your links was the community I think you mentioned. I love the video with everyone jumping in the lake and sitting in the ocean and playing paintball and all of that. So that looks really fun. Like I was thinking to myself, if I had the budget or lived locally, I would definitely sign up because it looks like my kind of thing. So can you explain what that is, and is there any opportunity for people to get involved in that?
Yeah. So what we do is that's called Biohacking Week. And it's a project that's it's something that I was really passionate about. I love, I think one of the things that we're missing in today's society, especially as entrepreneurs, is like that connectedness and being a part of a tribe. And we don't get it even interacting on Facebook or phones to the same degree as like in person. So I created this event called Biohacking Week, where people that want to take their knowledge from the book and our membership community and want to learn experientially by doing this stuff in person, by having me help them hack some of their some of their, energy issues, or, getting rid of their energy vampires, as I say, because it's like just too nerdy to constantly be talking about mitochondria. They come out to Chicago, and we usually do it with a small group of guys. And for 3 days, where I don't give anybody like the schedule or agenda. I just tell them, be ready to get outside your comfort zone, not doing any weird stuff, just like, ready to push yourself, because outside of that comfort zone is where all change happens. And we do a lot of like innovative things to help one another become the best version of ourselves. And it's already kind of leaked out there, but it ends on day 3 with we're all jumping out of an airplane.
Really?
And so like the first one,
Maybe I won't sign up.
yeah. And a lot of people, like with the first one, they didn't know about it. And it was like Saturday night, we were all hanging out, and it was Sunday that we were going to be jumping. One of the guys was like, man, he's like, I feel so empowered right now. And like, I love everything. He's like, I feel better after just 2 days of this than I felt like in the past couple of years. He's like, the only thing I wouldn't do is like jump out of a plane, like go to skydiving. And I was like, I just like quietly like stepped back and didn't say anything. And the next day we pull up to the skydiving place, and he's like, you son of a bitch.
And he did
but he
it.
jumped.
And what did he say afterward?
Oh, he was like, that was like the greatest experience of my life. It's truly like that moment where you realize that, and I said to the guys, they didn't know where we were going. I told my brother, who was driving the shuttle, to pull over when we were like 30 seconds away. And I was like, look, guys, I'm like, you're more likely to get struck by lightning than to have anything happen to you jumping out of an airplane. I'm like, the chances of anybody getting hurt is like 0.00007%. It's like nothing, but a lot of the fear, like life, is in our head. Yeah. And this is your chance to realize that a lot of that fear is false evidence appearing real, and push yourself and do the thing that is going to be an amazing, incredible experience. And like, it's the closest we're going to get to flying, and everybody did it.
False evidence appearing real. I love that. These are potential quotes that I can put at the start. And what was the other one you said? Getting out of your comfort zone is where change happens. Very true. Very true. I love that.
And I would love to take credit for that, but that's Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God. He was the one that said all change happens outside of your comfort zone. I wish that was my quote.
Smart guy. Okay, so really interested to sort of learn a little bit more about you and how you are productive and your routines and things like that. So on that note, what how do you start your day? What does the first 90 minutes of your day look like?
Yeah, so for me, I have found that when I can minimize the amount of time between my alarm going off, if I use an alarm to wake up, and me getting a workout in, specifically, like I go for moving meditation in the morning, that the better my day is. So I try to go for anywhere from like 20 to 60 minutes of moving meditation each morning. It's usually, for me, my default is jogging in my target heart rate zone. And then I'll throw in other types of strength, but I try to get a really good sweat, and specifically at the target heart rate zone, which I teach in the book, and in the membership site, like, so that you're not pushing yourself too little and you're not overexerting yourself, which can lead to exercise intolerance. And like you see more often with like CrossFit people and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So I get hydrated, I get moving, I get a workout in, I write in my gratitude journal. And those are like some of the most important things. I need to get sun, I need to breathe, I need to move and sweat, meditate. And I kind of bang all of that out in one activity. And then I'm getting real clear on what I'm grateful for. While I'm jogging, I'm also spending a little bit of time, kind of thinking and feeling the words like thank you, to kind of like get into that grateful vibrational state. And as weird as it sounds, actually picturing them coming from like my heart. So I'll be jogging and breathing and like thinking the words like thank you, I love you, thank you, I love you, thinking about people I appreciate, thinking about things I'm appreciative of. and I'll do that for at least 20 breaths. And yeah, that's what I've found to be some of the most important things for me to have a productive day, to be in a good mood, to be present, and to give the best of myself to the people in my life.
Cool. No, I like that, and I like the conscious effort to be grateful and appreciate things during your kind of exercise routine. That's a cool idea. Okay, so once you've completed that, and that perhaps that covers 90 minutes ish, I assume if you haven't got anything scheduled, do you then focus on your number one priority in your business, or how do you then get focused on some of your business activity, and how do you select what you're going to do and that type of thing?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing that helps a lot is before I go to bed the night before, and this is a friend, Craig Ballantyne, turned me on to this with his perfect life formula. Is I'll schedule out my day from start to finish, where each hour is accounted for, and then I'll have like what is my number one most important task written down. And then I'll have like a couple of like the secondary and tertiary tasks if I get the first one done. So then I have the opportunity to say, all right, like, okay, at 12:45, Lawrence and I are going to be chatting. Then at 2:30, I've got a podcast. You know what I mean? Something like that. I have it all scheduled out, and I try to do the most important thing first. Maybe that's I don't know, create a product, or like work on a webinar that we're doing to share the biohacking secrets community with more people. I'm like, okay, that's like the big, if I get this done, that will have the greatest impact on our business and helping people. And then I work off that. So doing it the night before actually helps a ton, and you don't spend time, like your most valuable creative time in the morning, which is a scarce resource for all of us.
Yeah.
You're not spending it planning the day, which can be a pretty mindless activity that can be done no matter how tired you are at night.
Yeah. So are you like, obviously apart from maybe now where you've got maybe some free time, but like, after this, I mean, but are you normally back to back then? Do you normally literally block out every single hour in your calendar?
No. I've found that I've tested different approaches, and like if I have back to back calls without breaks, I find that I'm not always as effective and present, but I can usually do like 2 or 3 back to back, and then I either need to do some sort of reset, whether it's like a meditation, jumping on the rebounder while doing some breath work.
What's a rebounder?
Like a mini trampoline.
Oh, right.
So there's a few companies that make them. I have a Rebound Air, and it's great for like creating G-force and like stimulating the lymphatic system and detoxification. It's a gentle workout, and doing some breath work on there can be really like just 5 minutes can really clear the mind. So something like that, whether it's exercise or meditation or breath work, recharges me a lot more than like getting on Facebook per se, or like watching YouTube videos, which have a tendency to just make things worse.
Oh man, yeah. Here. I mean, do you know what my issue is at the moment? Stats. Jesus.
Stats?
I check stats way too much. Like, you know what I mean? Like podcast stats, affiliate sales, social media, like interaction, email signups, all that stuff, because I'm much more conscious of it now because it's much more important now. I still put a lot of focus, almost all of my focus on the sort of the creative endeavor of, creating great content and a great podcast. But like, I find I've almost developed an addiction, and I'm trying to. Well, some days I'm fine, and some days I won't check till like the afternoon, but that is quite seldom. And I use things like, the Stay Focused Chrome extension where you could block websites for a certain hours in a day so that you can't check stats. But has that ever happened to you? Like, like where you set up a business online and you're like checking sales like every 5 minutes? Like, has that ever happened to you? And if so, how have you kind of, recovered from that and stopped doing it, I suppose?
Yeah. So absolutely, it has happened to me, and it's really common. A lot of people, especially people like you, who I would consider to be like a pretty conscious and aware individual,
Oh, thank you.
do notice that our electronics have a very addictive quality to them, and there's this dopamine surge that we get. I mean, we get it from just checking Facebook and Twitter and seeing that people are, liking our shit. But if you're also checking money coming in, now you're just like amplifying that dopamine hit that you get. And so like one of the ways that we do coaching is I have everybody on an app. So they're like, they're sending me questions and things like that. And I found myself for a while before I got this shit fixed, just throughout the day, any free moment, I would log in, I'd check, I'd be responding to questions, and then I'd like go do something else, and then I'd log back in and I'd respond to questions, and then I'd check revenue, and then I'd check Facebook and see like what people were responding to, and I was just all over the place, and it just makes us less effective because we're like a laser can burn a hole through rock. If you take that same amount of energy and just spray it everywhere, it may like not even warm the surface of our skin, and that's kind of the way that a lot of us are. We're just like spraying our energy all over the place. And I've selectively done less and less and less. I hardly ever check emails now. Like I mentioned, I'm putting my phone in airplane mode. I now have from like 6 p.m. to 6:30, which is when I know that my brain is less effective, less creative. That's when I respond to coaching clients. And I'm not burning through my prime time, doing things that I could do that I could do blindfolded, and you know what I mean? So thinking about designing your day and like, what are the most important things, and plugging those into like the time of day that best suits their, execution.
Yeah. I mean, I have a fairly good design, but I think it could be improved in terms of maybe pushing back some of my admin, tasks that require less brain power to later on in the day. And actually, the thing is, it's funny, this whole checking stats thing. It's like if I just left it, let's say, to the end of the day, right? Like, let's say rather than expect myself not to check like ever and check like once a week, which I think I'm not quite there yet. But literally at the moment, I'll sometimes check like every half hour, sometimes even more frequent than that. So perhaps just to check once at the end of the day, where it's also batched, like I can respond to a lot of the social media type stuff in one hit, is a far healthier practice than what I've got going on currently.
Absolutely. And looking at like, do the stats influence your behavior, and like, do you look at the stats and because of the data that you take in, do something different? And if the answer is no, then you just know that just plummeted in its priority, right? Because you're not going to do anything different regardless of what the stat says. You may just be bummed out. But if you're like, oh, if I see the stats are low, then I know I need to do X, Y, and Z to get them up, then it's a little bit different. And yeah, I agree, like checking in once a day and then having that as a part of your game plan for the next day could be helpful.
At least an improvement. But no, you're completely right.
Yeah.
I think it is affecting what I choose to do. And I think it's actually causing me some anxiety, because let's say I have a day where stats aren't where I want them to be, then yeah, it puts me in a bad mood. So it's interesting. I'm sort of thinking out loud. This is like therapy for me, but hopefully it'd be useful for some of the listeners, and I appreciate it.
For sure.
Okay, so I also be interested, you've got some really effective websites and sales pages that are really well designed. Where did you, obviously you said you really invested in marketing and reading a lot in that space. What resources were the most effective for you in that field?
Yeah, the most effective by far, ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson. So Russell Brunson's now, one of my friends. We originally met. I invested a good amount of money for him to coach me, and he has 2 books out. The first one's called .com Secrets, and the second one's called Expert Secrets. And he puts out a lot of like great free content. And his software, ClickFunnels, is where we build all of our websites, and it makes it easy to put up like pages that convert. Oh, you're seeing that. This is
Cutest dog.
She's my dog. Yeah, she's a little 5-pound Maltipoo. It's my girlfriend's dog, Nasita, and yeah, she's great. She just comes up. She loves attention. She's always got to be like right by you. Yeah, I would say check like anybody that's interested in marketing, and just helping to get their message out to the world. Get Russell's books. Start with that. But I would get them on his websites, because he also offers like some other resources that are really helpful, rather than just getting them on Amazon. And I don't know if yeah, his coaching program now I think is full, but if they have the money to invest, it was one of the best investments I've ever made.
Cool, good stuff. Talking about your podcast, you mentioned in your email to me, and obviously I've seen the numbers on iTunes, and you've created a very successful podcast. And obviously I'm very interested in podcast growth and what I can do to make this more successful. What have you found to be like the most important things to focus on when creating a podcast, right? For like sort of emphasizing the growth side of it.
You're gonna laugh, but when you were telling me about checking your stats and stuff, I was thinking, I don't even fucking know how to do that. I've never looked at my podcast stats ever.
No way.
And I don't even know how. Yeah. So I'm like, is my podcast good? I don't know.
Well,
I just try to create
500 5-star reviews or something like that. So that's a pretty decent.
Cool.
I think it's like that. Maybe I can't remember.
Yeah,
better than mine.
Yeah. No, I mean honestly, like with the podcast, because it's hard to track revenue that comes in from the podcast. I've kept it as a passion project, and I just try to talk to cool people, have fun conversations, shit I'm interested in, and then share that with other folks, and help people to maybe solve some things that in like what are some small changes people can make to their life that really produce big results for making increasing their energy, giving them a better quality of life, helping them become the best version of themselves. And that's kind of like the big picture goal. And I record it and I send it off, and yeah, most of the time if I'm looking at stats, I'm looking at stats that I can, I don't know what comes from the podcast, so I don't pay much attention to it. It's just kind of like anything that does come from it is gravy. And if people want to like sponsor it and stuff, then cool, Do
you monetize it at all at the moment?
Not really. I mean, I help out. We have some people that have reached out about sponsorship. I'll occasionally mention our book, and I may be naive in thinking that if you put out cool shit, then like other people want more of your shit. But that's kind of what it is with the podcast. Is like, if they dig the podcast and they're enjoying some of this, then they're probably going to want the book. And if they like the book, then they're probably going to want to join the membership site. And if they're like, when those things add value to their lives, like we had one guy and he's like, this guy, Edwin, he messaged me and he's like, I implemented one of your biohacks. He goes, I didn't change anything that I was eating. And I didn't do any exercise. And I lost 70 pounds. And he's like, just one thing. And I was like, wow. And he's like filling out the application for Biohacking Week. And like, that's why he wants to come to Biohacking Week. Because he's like, what else could do something like this, So I don't know. That's kind of the game plan. But we could definitely be more structured and measure that stuff, I'm sure.
No, it's interesting because it's like you say, you're focused. It's a passion project. You're doing something that you love, and you're enjoying those conversations. Exactly like me. I started this because I really enjoy. I'm really curious, and I just want to learn. And obviously, I've kind of created this audience who are on the same wavelength and want to learn too. So that's always been that's the reason I'm doing this full time. I just need an income to live. So if that wasn't a problem, then I wouldn't really be focusing on it at all. But maybe, like you say, just continue going in the same direction and doing the same things and being consistent with it is going to is going to provide the opportunity for that income. Obviously I have other things, I have other products and things like that on the website, but I don't focus on that much, and maybe I should. I have thought about investing a lot more time in creating a product that I think would serve a lot of my audience, in terms of probably something high intensity training related, maybe more to it than that, but I've not really thought too much about it.
Yeah. I think that like, if you have the intention of at some point creating something that like really helps your audience, your mind will be working on that in the background. And at some point, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's like next month, maybe it's next year, you're going to have that like, shit, that's it. Like that's what I need to do. And it will be like this alchemy of like questions people have written in and things they wanted help with and stuff other people have said. And then you'll just be like, this isn't in the market. This is a need that I need to fulfill. And I don't know.
That's great advice. Okay, so time is ticking on, but I wanted to ask you this final question on sort of the productivity piece. What are your favorite apps and tools for better productivity that you're using at the moment? What you just started using?
The one that's been a game changer is Trello. That's been by far the most helpful, and like, well, I like Trello and I like Evernote. But Evernote didn't do for me what Trello did. And like one of the cool things about Trello is you can create, like, if you have something that's important, you can create a card for it, and then you can tag someone on your team, or you can like tag yourself, and then you can put a deadline date on it. And like, we have it for all the different parts of our business. So I can go into the podcast and create a card. I could go into coaching and create a card. I could go into content creation and create a card. I could go into, biohacking week and create a card. So it keeps it organized. And then you get reminders as like the deadline is approaching. If you have to get stuff to your team, like, you're not like sending an email and then kind of hoping they write it down and keep track and eventually get it done by a certain date and time. Like, they get notified. They know when you're expecting to have it done. If they need you to review it, they can put it into the review category. And that's helped a lot. And I have to thank a guy, James Friel, who set that up. He's like a consultant, and he helps businesses get organized. And basically we invested to have him like take a look at our business, break it down, and then create a Trello system for us. And since we've been using that, it's just simplified so much. I used to have notes everywhere, like notebooks and notepad apps in the phone, and then Evernote, and like I'd be firing off emails to different people on our team, and like stuff would just slip through the cracks, and it was a big mess. And Trello has centralized that mess in one place.
So Trello is kind of like a CRM? Is that what it is, or more advanced than that, I would say? Or expensive?
I don't know exactly what the name is for it. I'd have to see how they categorize themselves. But it helps keep, like, I don't know. It helps keep like all of your tasks organized. And I'm seeing here what Trello calls themselves.
They've probably got some tagline or something. But no, I have a few friends who swear by it. So no, it's interesting. It's something I'll probably check out in the future. What else are you using? What other kind of, I guess, phone apps do you find really, really helpful and make you a little bit more productive?
So this will probably go counter. It'll probably be a surprising answer to the question, but using the phone less helps me be more productive. And just like not spending tons of time staring at the screen. And I find that like clicking that button over to airplane mode and doing more with a pen and paper, I internalize more. I internalize better. And it helps me to stay in a state where I am happier, more focused, and more productive. And I truly believe that like our effectiveness comes in part from action and activity, but oftentimes if we're stressed or, too connected to our devices, we can mistake activity for progress, where we're just doing shit, but we're doing it in a state that is ineffective, and doesn't produce the result that we're going for. So unplugging would and not using any other apps, and getting a journal, getting some of these Moleskine journals, and using more of that. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And if I look back, whenever I've been the most productive and most effective, it's, I have a kind of a launch sequence like you. I don't tend to do exercise, or that might change. And then I sort of get into my priority tasks straight away. And, if the phone's in airplane mode, I'll be working on the laptop, but I'll be very focused on what it is I'm doing. If I'm writing a blog post, I took this technique from Neville. He's one of Noah Kagan's friends. I can't remember his last name. Neville Medora, I think. And he takes the text edit app and he'll blow it up so he can't see anything else on his screen, and he'll zoom right in, and it's just like you're just writing text, but there's nothing else on the screen. Like it's no notifications or anything like that, which I thought was really clever and simple. Obviously, it's kind of common sense, but these things we are easy to forget. So
you may like this, babe. Can you pass me the Neo 2 keyboard? So this is an even, I think, more effective version of that. So this is called a Neo 2,
oh, cool.
And it's basically like an electronic typewriter. And it's the same thing. So if you're working on a blog post or something that you would just do in Notepad, this doesn't even give you the option of minimizing it and going and doing something else. And what's better than the laptop is no EMFs.
Cool.
So this minimizes those distractions, and you're not blasting your boys with with any of that.
So I should have mentioned, because it's audio only podcast. So what Anthony just held up there was like a keyboard with a screen built in, and it looks like it's something that was built in like the 1980s, but I'm assuming it's actually it's relatively new.Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But great idea. No, I love it. I think that's really cool. Okay, so let's move on to just a couple of kind of rapid fire questions, and then we'll wrap up. What books have you reread the most yourself? Whether it be health and fitness or business, so no specific genre.
Yeah, I really like Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect. I'm a big fan of Stephen Pressfield's Do the Work and The War of Art. Both of those I like a lot. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Those are and Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God.
What is the best investment of time, energy, or money you have ever made?
I really like, I don't know, well, it's audio only, but I don't know if you can see over there. We've got a clear light infrared sauna in the living room, and out of all of the investments I've made, we probably enjoy that one the most. And you just feel like when I'm consistently using that, I feel more flexible, I feel more energetic, mood is better, skin looks better. And it wasn't cheap. I think it was $5 or $6K, but it's worth it. We've got those at like biohacker.store if people are looking for like some of the weird tools and toys that I really like. Once they're vetted, we put them on biohacker.store.
Awesome. Good stuff. And what's the best way for people to contact you, Anthony, and find out more about what you're up to? I do a bunch on Facebook. Our page is like my name, so it's Anthony DiClementi, DiClementi, and I try to post videos somewhat regularly there. If they don't have the book, we're giving away that for free right now for the short term at biohackersguide.com. That's a good place to start, and it's like they just help out with the cost of shipping. We'll send it anywhere in the world, and they can see if they resonate with some of the other things. And like, it's not all about EMFs or any shit like that. It's like
we cover best practices in nutrition and movement and stress management. Yeah, that would be a good place for people to start and see if they kind of dig the message and more specifically find it to help their quality of life.
Cool. Excellent. And to all those listening, if you like this episode, please subscribe. To find the show notes and links for this episode and all episodes, please go to 15minutecorporatewarrior.com/podcast and join the community. I've got a Facebook page called Corporate Warrior, and we've got a community building there, and everyone's sort of engaging with each other and discussing the podcast. So I'd love to have more in that on that platform too. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
I hope you enjoyed that. Before you head off, head on over to corpwarrior.com to get your free ebook with 6 interview transcripts of some of my top guests, including Dr. Doug McGuff, Drew Bay, and Bill Day Simone, on how to optimize muscle gain, fat loss, and overall health in an efficient, effective, and sustainable way. These transcripts are not verbatim, deliberately. Instead, they've been transcribed in an easy read format to make it more enjoyable and easier for you to quickly pick out what you need and start getting results. To get your ebook, head on over to corpwarrior.com, that's CORP warrior.com, and enter your email address. Then check your email for an email from me with a confirmation link. Once you click the link, you will be instantly redirected to a PDF version of the transcripts.